All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. You are here for our September chapter meeting. I see a few new faces, so give me one moment as we start our presentation, and we'll go into introductions here in just a moment. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right, guys. It's been a busy summer. And we have a lot of things to cover as you can see, tons of updates, upcoming events and activities. You can see from our agenda, we have quite a few things. And then, of course, at the end, Ray will be covering our educational topic today of fall cleanup tips and seed collection, which will lead into some of the upcoming activities that we have. So with that being said, let's go down the list. Let's do some introductions because I do know we have some new people. So let me start with some of the officers, and we'll go around, and then we'll say hi to everyone else. But my name is Jessica Ausnamer. I'm the president of the Greater Cleveland Wild Ones chapter. I've been with the chapter about a year and a half now, but very excited. We have a lot of growth going on, a lot of really cool events, activities, educational things. We've really come a long way in this last year. But in addition to that, some people that are just joining or just starting to tap into Wild Ones, some people think that they have to be an expert. And for me, this is something really important for me as like a little personal mission, is to share with people you don't have to have any knowledge about this to help make a difference and just start taking baby steps. For those that know me, I have a brown thumb. I kill about 80% of the plants that come into my house. But that's one of the reasons why I love native plants, because I get to paint with plants. But is that because it's meant for the area, as long as you do a little bit of research, chances are good they're going to survive in our area and our yards. So with minimal effort, not saying there's no effort, but just with a little bit of research and a little bit of effort. So I'm happy to say I have a green yard. So that's just a teeny bit about myself. Ray, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Ray Stewart. I'm vice president of this lovely organization, and I'm a retired science teacher. A few decades ago, I was working as a volunteer with a wetland organization. Eventually, I founded Ohio Wetlands Association. After about 10 years of leading that, I passed the baton on to a capable board to continue with that. And then I started another nonprofit, the Webfoot Designs, where I'm doing landscape design with nature in mind and promoting native plant cultivation. And that's been keeping me pretty busy since. And it seems like the mission of Wild Ones is almost identical with mine with Webfoot Designs. I just happen to have built in a income stream by consulting and designing that allows me to do more gardening with the proceeds of that. So I'm all about native plants. I'm trained botanist. I worked as a landscape manager for several years before becoming a teacher, and I've always been ecologically minded. So I'm doing what I love now.
Great, thank you, Ray. Next, let's go to Janice.
Hi, everybody. Janice Arch. I'm a landscape architect in the Akron area. I am the secretary for the Greater Cleveland chapter. Let's see. I have a brown thumb as well, but all of mine are indoor plants. Everyone always comes and asks me about indoor plants, and I always tell them I I kill all mine. Anything outside, great. Inside, not so much. I will say I am very excited. I walked around my backyard earlier, and I found some blue mist flower in my rain garden, that's blooming. So that was very exciting. I haven't really looked around too much lately, so I wanted to share that I was very excited to find one of those guys in there.
Great, thank you, Janice. All right, next, Diane. We can't hear you, Diane.
Thank you. Sorry. My name's Diane Davis. I am the treasurer, and I am a retired HR executive. I have no experience whatsoever, professionally, educationally. So to your point, Jessica, I'm one of those that, just came on to this native plant thing about 3-4 years ago. So I'm learning by doing and reading and listening to others and participating in calls like this. Looking forward to your talk, Ray, today, and just learning as I go. So I hope we get more people that are in my boat. I love learning from the knowledgeable ones, but I like hanging out with the people that are just learning, and they're so excited and they get so pumped up about something that they planted. And so it's a great organization to be with, and definitely fills my heart when we are able to teach and share and grow things together.
Great, thank you, Diane. And I just saw he left. I was gonna say, so Lauren, Jack, I see you waving him in.
It's okay. Our animals are deciding to have little attitudes right now, right, as this is happening. So we have a lot of attitudes in the house. So I'm Laura.
I'm Jack.
This is Morris. We live in Sagamore Hills. We've been part of Wild Ones since February. We're a lot like Diane. We don't have any connection really to landscaping or plants or the science or education behind it, but we moved here last year and have some land and are really excited to turn it into a prairie and like learn as we're doing, like Diane said. So we've planted a lot around the house, and I've just kind of picked one of everything and kind of we're seeing what's going on and what likes it where. And so it's very much experimental, but yeah, I'm also the membership chair. So I think, Emily, I sent you an email earlier today. So glad to see you here. If anyone else just joined, yeah, it's nice to be reaching out to folks, kind of seeing all the new people. And then Jack, do you want to share your role?
I'm an assistant web chair, so I do some of the website updates and YouTube uploads.
As far as what's blooming in our yard, we have some mist flower right now that's blooming, and our black-eyed Susans are still blooming. So yep, but things are slowing down. The asters are starting to try to come out. So that's us.
Other than my one woodland aster, I have never had luck with aster. The deer like destroy it.
Yeah, we have a lot of different types of asters, and there's only one which we actually have everywhere in our yard, and I ended up buying one because I hadn't identified it yet. So it's growing along with everything else, the same one everywhere, but the other ones we haven't seen yet. So
yeah, so far I'm only having luck with the one woodland, and I just planted a smooth aster, so I'm gonna see if that helps in the one area. But man, New England aster, like something about it. So all right, well, let's go to some of our newer people. Emily, would you mind saying hi?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Emily Greenland. I'm a senior at the College of Worcester. I have done a lot with entomology, specifically bees, in my college experience, and I'm doing my senior project on sampling bees and wasps at Seacrest Arboretum in Worcester. I'm a TA for field botany right now. And so I'm kind of just interested in everything that the organization has to offer. I'm really excited to be here. This is great to hear about it and hoping to help with some projects. And as far as native plants in my yard, I just got here. I'm home for the weekend. But it looks like we do have brown-eyed season in the back, so yay.
Great, thank you, Emily. Joe, would you mind saying hi?
Hi, yeah, I'm not a member. I just popped in to see what it was all about. I've recently been introduced to native plants through a rain garden class I took, learning how to build rain gardens, and they talked a lot about native plants. So I started learning just recently about all the benefits and just trying to get a lot more information to make better choices moving forward with landscaping my yard. I'm getting rid of my front yard, so I'm looking to plant native plants in my front yard and just looking to find information.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, welcome, and never feel you have to be a member. These types of meetings are open to all, but we just sort of combine it with our chapter events and activities because roughly 95% of that is open and to the public. So I hope you do consider joining us, but no pressure. And if you would like to talk to one of us after this, please feel free to just message us or just put in the chat, and we'd be happy to follow up with you after the meeting.
Okay,
So,
sounds good. Thank you.
great, thank you, Joe. And Milkweed Matt, would you mind saying hi? Are you able to come up and mute?
Hold on, am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are unmuted now.
Oh, okay. Well, hello.
Hello. So Matt, would you mind saying a little bit about something about yourself and maybe what's blooming in your yard? And maybe even tell us how your monarchs are doing?
Oh, well, in my yard, I got maybe like 2 acres or something, and I know there's definitely a lot of, I believe it has a few different names, but it's like frost aster. There's another name for it. I forget the main name, but yeah, there's definitely a ton of asters blooming, and goldenrod for sure. I just saw something back there because I was just mowing the grass. I just saw something back there. They're small and almost bluish purple with like a yellow center. They look pretty cool. I'm not sure what they are. I'm sure they're pretty common, but I think I might have seen what they were before, but I don't remember the name of those either. I still got some black-eyed Susans that are blooming also. Monarchs, I got two that eclosed today. Got to release them. I still got like, where am I at? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. I still got nine chrysalises to go. So, and I don't know if any of you guys seen the Cleveland Metro Parks Facebook post on Tuesday. I was like, about the monarchs at Wendy Park. There was like about 300 of them down there on Tuesday. And like, I seen that post, and we just had that meeting up there on Friday, and I was like, I was gonna try to share it on the Wild Ones page, but that's not like an open page to post on. And so I was like, wanting to tell you guys if any, because I know there's people up there wanting to see them and stuff. And I was like wanting to share it, and I'm like, well, I don't have anybody's I'm not like friends with, I don't think anybody on Facebook or anything, so I wasn't able to like kind of share that information. But so I was able to make it down there after work Tuesday, and I mean it's the first time I went down there to see them. So I'm sure there's times where it was better than that, but it was still freaking awesome for sure. I mean, they were all over the park everywhere. And I was there for like 3 hours. Just stayed there till sundown. And yeah, it was freaking cool. I mean, just all the monarchs was awesome, but then like seeing all the people that came to see them, and I was just looking around and like I couldn't help but notice like how many people were standing there just smiling. I just couldn't help notice all the smiles.
No, it's a beautiful
And
time of
how much
year,
how much
especially if you catch that the
joy
roost.
something like that.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know, but I think the timing got thrown out of sync or whatever. But yeah, I just couldn't help but notice just all the smiles and stuff, and all the people just there appreciating that, and it was an awesome experience Tuesday.
Yes, no, I heard stories. Yeah. So for those that don't know, what one of the things that Matt was referencing is we did sort of an impromptu, well, I shouldn't say completely impromptu, but a quick get together that was open to the public because they were predicting the peak migration of the monarchs to be coming through Wendy Park, and they'd already been seeing the roosts. So that's when a large number of monarchs are sort of parking themselves in these eastern cottonwood trees. Wendy Park. There's also other locations, but Wendy Park is one of the more predictable locations for these roosts. So unfortunately, the day we picked was not very successful. We only had a very small handful that we saw fluttering by, and one person that brought theirs up to be released. But earlier that week on Sunday, when I had been up there, there was several roosts, but this Tuesday I'd heard was just, to Matt's point, was well over 300. It was really cool. But my understanding is they're still coming in. But if that is something that interests you, check out Monarch Maniacs of Ohio, and sometimes you can hear up on that. And then Matt, to your point, we actually have a special solution that will be available here in a moment. So we'll talk more about that. But if anybody ever does need to get a hold of us, don't hesitate to message us either through Facebook, Instagram, or send us an email. We do our best to monitor that on a regular basis, and it is a little bit hit and miss, depending on what time our volunteers are available and the time of week it is. But we do our best to monitor those forms of communication. So if you see something or hear about something like that, don't hesitate to reach out. So, but for those that might not be aware, Wild Ones promotes an environmentally sound landscaping practice to preserve biodiversity through the preservation, restoration, and establishment of native plant communities. And really what that boils down to, really trying to promote and create awareness around the importance of native plants and restoring the ecosystem. And that's anything that touches upon that, whether that's monarch migrations and supporting planting milkweed, to using less pesticides, to clearing out invasive species, working with community partners on education awareness, as well as a variety of other things. So really, it's the sky's the limit. And the more people we have, the more we can connect, partner, and do more events and activities, which you'll learn about here in just a moment. So in the last month, since our last chapter meeting, we've had 16 new members. So as of earlier today, we are, I think, at roughly 83 members. So we're very excited. As you can see, quite the list on here. And I believe Emily, who's on the line, was one of our newest members, so you can see her name on there. So Emily, thank you for joining this meeting. But the important thing about members is they're really the heart of our organization, because whether it's through their participation in some way, whether that's educational or helping us volunteer, even just by being a member, you're helping support the cause, because 95% of our events and activities are free and open to the public. And since we're our nonprofit 5013C organization, that's tax deductible for our, means that by becoming a member, that's tax deductible, but then we help utilize that to help community events and activities. Maybe it's installing plant gardens, or doing public speakers and a variety of other things. So just something to keep in mind, that even just by being here and being a part of our organization, you are helping. And sometimes it's those little things that can make the biggest impact. So just a few events and activities that we did in last month, which does not cover all of it, because obviously you just heard about the Monarch one that we did. But from an education program perspective, one of the last pieces of our programming session for the summer was our integrated pest management session. So we had this at the Medina County Metro Parks. So in special partnership, and apologize, I'll just move this. So Denise Ellsworth from the Ohio State University Extension in entomology, that's where we also met Emily, was kind enough to teach us more about this, what to look for, both pest-wise and through or through the plants themselves. You can see a few pictures on here, but it was a really great interactive session that talked a little bit about what we should look for in our local environments. We even talked a little bit about spotted lanternfly. So it was a really great session. I appreciate everyone that helped participate. And then on top of that, on September 2nd, we partook in the Medina County Metro Parks Native Plant Festival, which is their first festival ever. So we handed out free native plant seeds. We did a seed bomb event with kids and family members, and we just had general conversations about native plants, the importance, of their importance in the ecosystem. And then some of our members, such as Danielle, gave a nature walk. And Cicero had a wonderful display, covering anything from a little bit of the monarch life cycle to, pollinators in general and a few other things. So you can see just a few pictures of our crew that volunteered on that day. And keep in mind that we did prep work for this too, with regards to seed bombs. So we also had volunteers from that perspective. So really appreciate everyone that helped pull this together. But these are really critical events and activities that we share with the public to make people more aware. So thank you because several of you are on the line that helped with this. And maybe we even met a few people from here on there. So next we have some chapter updates. For those not aware, we are going through a charter process, which is sort of the next level up with regards to our chapter, because we are considered a younger chapter, even though we have 83 members, which is probably larger than most chapters. But by becoming a chartered chapter, this will allow us, once we get through this process, to be able to do additional fundraising, events and activities, possibly even do grants, among many other things. So really help us level up in our impact in the community, and do additional partnering and special projects. So The latest update here is officers have been meeting and discussing this topic. And one of the next things that we are working on is adopting the chapter bylaws. So we will be meeting again on this next week. If everything goes well, that'll finish up next week. If not, it's not a big deal. This will go into October, but ideally will be chartered hopefully sometime in October. So very excited about this. Look more to come on this, and just a special thank you to the officers on board that are partaking in this. Many of you are on the line, but there's many that are not, because really appreciate your time and attention to this. So next, so we have a new chair. So for those that don't know, unfortunately she wasn't able to make it today. Sierra Rawson has volunteered to become our newsletter and communication chair, many of us are thankful, because many of us are wearing multiple hats at this point in time, but Sierra has stepped in. And so going forward, our goal is to have a regular monthly newsletter and some, get a little bit more additional communications come out, especially via email, because we are cognizant that roughly 20%, maybe closer to 30%, don't use Facebook on a regular basis, which is really our go-to for a lot of communications and educational pieces. So we want to beef up our emails and a few other things just a little bit more, and be cognizant of that not everyone uses one platform. But Sierra is very excited to join our group. She does intend to be a part of next month's meeting, but she is traveling for work today. But she loves native plant gardening, and she thinks it's really great entry point for new people to enter environmentalism and caring about the interconnected lives of people, insects, animals, and the community. And she's really excited to be a part of our group. But in her day-to-day, she serves as the community engagement coordinator in Cleveland and actually the Great Lakes, with the National Wildlife Federation's Great Lakes region. And one of the programs that she helps with is Sacred Grounds program, which is a program that gives mini grants and technical support for faith communities to install native plant gardens that encourage congregations and communities in this work. And then in addition, on her off time, she loves to wander through local metro parks, loves to read books, and enjoys new crafts. So very excited to have her on board. Unfortunately, she just wasn't able to join this meeting. But I know Ray and I are especially excited to have her though. When you see her, say hi to her. But I think she should be a part of our next meeting. So next, as I promised Matt, we now have a new chapter members only Facebook group. So to be very clear, our main page is not going away. But we recognize that as a next step in us trying to build a community, we really want to be able to have our members, share their experiences, their successes, their questions, pictures of what they have questions about, or maybe what's in their garden or what they should do. And to do that, we recognize we wanted to create a members only Facebook group, which is tied to the main page, and allow that avenue for our chapter members. So you guys are the first to hear about this. We have not made the Facebook post about this yet. We haven't put it in the newsletter yet. That'll be coming in the next couple days. So you guys are the first ones. So Matt, you could be one of the first people to sign up. Share your photos from Tuesday and maybe some of the stuff going on in your yards, or if you have questions and not sure how to identify something. You'll, like I said, you'll find that the group is a really big mix. You'll have people like myself who, may be able to answer some basic questions, but then you'll have a Ray or Janice who who might be able to go a little bit more in depth for you, as well as many other members of our chapter. You know, because we all have unique experiences. So if you are a member, feel free to sign up. You can actually do it through the QR code or the link on here, or you can also go directly to our page and then click on the groups, and then you can ask to be invited in. Like I said, this is members only, but keep in mind that our Facebook page is still going to be our main one for upcoming events, announcements, things like that. Think of the group as more of a community page. Like I said, to share your stories and questions and things along those lines. So any questions with regards to this announcement? All right, it takes silence as we're good. All right. So next, the Northeast Ohio Native Habitat Corridor signage. So we have finally finalized this. So very excited to share. So for those that are not aware, we are in the midst of a project that we started earlier this year. And it's called Northeast Ohio Native Habitat Corridor. For those not aware, this is very similar to the pollinator pathways types of projects and initiatives, but takes it to another level. We don't want to step on any toes of some pathways that might be in existence, but they tend to be just for a street or for a certain area. And we cover a very large area, and we want to be able to support that type of effort. And so this gives that avenue, whether they're already a part of a pathway or have never heard of one, but want to possibly partake in a group or initiative to start planting native plants, whether you're just starting off with a patch, or maybe you already have an established garden. And it just gives an option to join. This is still in a developmental stage. We've just finalized the signage. There's a few other pieces that we're still working through, like the application process. But we're very excited that we've at least finalized with the artist what that design looks like. Because of the next stages, including having to have the signs fabricated and a few other things, the chapter charting process does have to now occur first, because that will require additional funding and a few other things that we have to get through. But look for more updates in the coming months once we get through the chapter chartering process. Any questions here? All right. Next, and this is for also chapter members, our fall journal just came out. So this is a national journal that shares a lot of stories and other great pieces of information about native plants, and things that our national organization is doing. So go look for that online. If you become a member, you will have access to this. So go check that out. All right, so next, we have upcoming events, and I'm not sure why that's coming through that way. Upcoming events and activities. So this Saturday, we have a Can You Dig It event, which is the second one of its kind. That will be at Ray's house in Amherst. So this is in person. We're going to do seed collection. We're going to be digging up some native plants that you can walk away with, and a little bit of some food and drink. So Ray has tons of different species, but Ray, did you want to say anything about some of the species or anything else with regards to this event?
There. Oh, there it is. Yeah, bring a shovel, bring bags or pots, so that you've got something to carry things away. Yeah, no, and there's quite a variety. I published a list. I'm not sure where that list is right offhand of various plants that are available here. But you know, one of the things that has happened with any native garden is some plants grow a lot more aggressively in good conditions than you ever imagined, and that's happened with a number of things. So I've got bee balm that is just spreading, you know, a little bit beyond what I anticipated. I've got, of course, obedient plant, and everybody knows that's an aggressive spreader. I've got dogbane. I've got who has that list? I'm trying to think. I've got ginger, our native wild ginger. Some of that needs to be taken because I took out a tree. I took out a Norway maple tree, and now I've got way too much sun in some places, and the shade-loving plants need a new home. That sort of thing. In the rain garden, the irises really quadrupled in size. They just popped up in places I never intended. So that needs to be thinned out. And it just goes on like that. I'm going to be marking many of the plants. So some of them are black-eyed Susans that just volunteered. I've ironweed that's too big, too tall for some places. I've got some really tall sunflowers, Helianthus, I think, what's it called? Maximilian is one of them. It gets 8 feet or more tall. I've got another one that's sawtooth that is similarly very big and bigger than the catalog says that it should get. And so they need a place where tall is more appropriate. I've got compass plant. Oh my goodness, I've dug it up 2 or 3 times now to take and plant out at the Oberlin Prairie, and it keeps coming back anyhow. So if anybody wants those sorts of things, and there'll be more that are available, and we're going to have some snacks and some drinks and chance to just kind of sit around and hang out all afternoon. So it should be a good time. We get to talk about plants. You get to take something special home, a mature plant that's just ready to go. And this is a great time of year to do that because the temperatures are more mild and things transplant well this time of year.
Thank you, Ray. So yes, that was actually just a small sample of some of the plants that he has. So if you are on Facebook, the list of plants are on there, but even that says and more. So but definitely a really great opportunity to see some plants that you might not always see, even at some of the native, the local nurseries. So it might be a unique opportunity, plus it's free, right? The other thing is we'll be doing seed collection. And this is something that we do as a chapter. We have actually a few other events that we'll be doing this with too, that by doing the seed collection, this will allow us to give out free seeds at events for the upcoming year, as well as doing special activities such as seed bombs and other things like that. So it really allows us to do more things in the community, not just for the actual event itself. So and then in future events, we might do like seed packaging and other things like that. So in preparation for the upcoming year, especially as we get into winter, because then we have winter sowing opportunities and events and things like that. So definitely come check that out this Saturday from 2 to 6 in Amherst. Yeah, hope to see you. And thank you, Ray, again, for hosting. And if you need anything from us last minute, don't hesitate to reach out. Other events and activities coming up. So on October 7th, we actually have 2 events going on. So we have the Guy Denny Prairie Seed Collection. So this is a huge somewhere between 20 to 22 acres of prairie land, closer to central Ohio, but it's a gorgeous area that from 10 to 1, there's going to be experts in the field, but we'll really be going there for the seed collection. So it'll be a great opportunity to collect a massive amount of seeds for our upcoming events and activities, and to share with local community organizations. Ray, is there anything you want to add with regards to the Guy Denny Prairie Tour and seed collection?
Sure. If you're not familiar, this is Ohio Natural Areas and Preserves Association that is doing this. It's a nonprofit that's been around for a dozen years or so. And Guy Denny is the president founder of that organization. He was once head of the under the Department of Natural Resources. He was part of the Natural Areas and Preserves Association, and a couple other past directors of that department are also involved with it, and they will be there. There are really outstanding naturalists and prairie specialists that will be there. So if you can just come and listen to these folks talk about plants, they really get into quite a bit of depth about how they grow, where they grow, how to propagate them. It's a great opportunity. Plus, then you're just kind of on your own to go and find something that you're looking for and collect seeds. And last year I was there. I filled up a 50-gallon garbage bag with seed pods and that sort of thing, and hardly made a dent. And there were many others doing that as well. So it's a great opportunity.
Great, thank you, Ray. And don't forget, wear decent shoes because especially if it's been raining or anything like that, and bring materials to collect seeds, whether for yourself or to help out the chapter. So all right, and then also the same day in Shaker Heights at the Nature Center Autumn Fest, there's going to be a lot of great activities, especially for families, kids, and a variety of other things. There's also going to be some nature walks / hikes, but we'll be there and tabling, so definitely come check us out and check out the events going on. And that'll be from 3 to 7 on Saturday, October 7th. And then at the national level, Wild Ones will have a live webinar about creating and managing landscapes for native bees. So Emily, this might be one for you to check out as well, even though I know this is one of your background areas. But this will be Thursday, October 12th at 6 p.m. Be sure we've shared the links either through our chapter newsletter, but also on the national Facebook page and things along those lines. So for those not aware, the national level has a separate page that they announce these types of events and activities. So be sure to check that out and register for that if that is something that interests you. And then, of course, our October chapter meeting will be the third Thursday of that month, and that is Thursday, October 19th at 7 p.m. And then in addition to that, we'll be working with the Medina County Parks District community and doing a community tree planting event where we'll be planting 150 trees. So this is the trees that were tied to or I should say leftover of their invasive species swap. So we reused the leftover native trees that they had, and we're going to be planting them. And that'll be on Saturday, October 21st from 11 a.m. To 3 p.m. So please, all of these are open to the public. Please share and communicate with friends and family. join us and check that out. And just like I said, every little bit helps the environment. In addition to this, there is an event around town coming up actually this Saturday as well, that we want to make sure people are aware, and that is the Friends of Heights Parks native plant sale. So for those of you who are not aware, fall, this time of year is really great time to plant native plants. You know, the spring is another great time, but really fall is a fantastic time to plant native plants. And it's one of the last opportunities around this time of year before you have to start worrying about frost. Not saying that that will automatically kill a plant, but that's just something to be aware of, because most of these the native plant nurseries start closing up shop towards the beginning or mid of October. So this might be one of those last opportunities to really catch some of these native plant sales, and still have a variety to be able to, you know, give your plants the best chance of survival. But if you hear of other events and activities, please let us know, whether for us to participate or us just make aware, because we always try to be a good neighbor, and especially with our partner organizations, and want to sure we share about these opportunities to participate and whatnot. So next, volunteer opportunities with regards to our chapter. So we are actually, Laura, would you like to speak to this one?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
So I've been membership chair for a couple months now. There were two of us, and Stephanie had to leave because she had all this other stuff going on. I'm really looking for someone who can help out. It's really not a ton of work, but it's something that there's more things that we want to do, and we just haven't been able to do it with my bandwidth. So would love to partner with someone totally remote, virtual. We already have all these Google Drive folders and templates and everything set up. And so really looking forward to having someone just help me keep up with all of our new members. Anyone who signs up after an event, we usually try to reach out to them within the next week or so. They put people who have expired, wanting to make sure they know that their membership has expired if they want to keep being part of this group. And there's other ideas. So if anyone's excited about other things you could do for membership, engagement and things like that, I think we'd love to do that. More of those things as well. So this is not too bad of a commitment. Be able to meet up every so often just to make sure we're aligned on things. But once I get you sort of trained up on where everything's at, then we could always split duties off and do whatever makes sense for us with our schedules. So would love to have help. And so if anyone's interested, you can reach out to the Wild Ones email, or I'll put my email in here too if anyone's interested in reaching out directly to me. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura. So one thing I just want to emphasize with regards to the membership chair position that Laura is fulfilling, but also in general her team, you know, this is really the front line. You might see me or some of the other people, you know, at the tables and or helping, you know, help create the awareness, but it's really Laura and her team that really help make it cohesive. It's the start of everything, of pulling together and having people join the chapter. So if you really enjoy that connection and reaching out, whether that is through email or having conversations with people about Wild Ones and, you know, the importance of our mission and how just by being a member is important. You know, this is really a critical position, even though, you know, I know Laura said it's only an hour or two, but that hour or two is so important to the chapter. So don't discount it. It's a really important position, because chapters don't survive without this type of help. So very, very important, and we appreciate everything that you do, Laura. So thank you. Next, we are looking for a program chair. So this program chair would help lead and organize and arrange monthly educational sessions like the one that we're doing today with Ray. But in addition to that, help create a plan around educational events and activities, helping prepare on the calendar, but also work with other people to coordinate those events, activities, or what's just needed in general for that, as well as arranging for speakers and many other things. So if that's something that interests you, reach out. Because we're getting to the point with so many members and activities, we are now looking for an events coordinator. So a lot of times that has fallen to Ray or myself, but we're just getting to the point, like you see now, sometimes we're even running into more than one activity within the same day in different locations. And we're just looking for that person that's well organized, maybe has some familiarity with keeping events organized, maybe even identifying events that we might want to consider doing or participating in, because that's the great thing about Northeast Ohio is there's so many great organizations and so many great established events and activities that it's easy to plug into and partner up with. So this person will just help keep that organized and coordinate efforts. So it gives Ray and myself a little bit more bandwidth back. So if that's something that interests you, please let us know. In addition, as a part of our next steps, we're also looking for a marketing / publicity chair. So this is very complementary to our, communication and newsletter and a variety of other things that we've already started beefing up. But once we are chartered, we'll be even doing more. And so this person would help us create marketing materials, publicize activities to the general public, possibly working to do public announcements with newspapers and a variety of other things. It doesn't stop there, guys. So there's other ways to help volunteer. One of the other things that we're looking for that isn't necessarily a specific position, is educational articles and posts. There are so many topics out there, and I know several of you have different passions, and maybe you don't have that time commitment, or that time to commit to a regular position, but maybe you are interested in a certain flower, or I was just talking to a member the other day that she was really passionate about oak trees, and I mentioned, like, hey, if this is something that really interests you, do us a little favor. If you have a moment, create a couple paragraphs and maybe a photo of that oak tree or something along those lines. And we would love for you to partake in even just that little way. And we can share that on social media or maybe our newsletter. And then you're helping educate others on this topic. So if this is something that interests you, let us know. And like I said, it can be one-off, or you can do this on a regular basis, but it's a really cool way to engage. And then if there's something else that you think of that you want to volunteer, but maybe these don't sound right for you, reach out, send us an email, and we'll have that conversation with you, because there's a lot of other needs that we have. We just prioritize that, but we'd love to engage you and work with you. If that's something that you really want to do sooner than later and these aren't the right fit, reach out. Let's have that conversation. And speaking of which, event volunteer opportunities. So this is where we're tabling at an event and or are one of the active participants in it, and we're looking for special volunteers just for that day to help us. So as we mentioned, on Saturday, October 7th, we'll have the Shaker Lakes Nature Center Autumn Fest. This will be an information table. If we get enough participants, we might do a special activity like a seed bomb or something else. But we first want to get a gauge of who's interested in volunteering and helping us table for these 4 hours. and from there we'll coordinate and figure out next steps. So and then in addition to that, we have the Medina County Parks community tree planting event, which I mentioned 150 trees. So that would be more of a boots on the ground, make sure you wear good shoes, bring a shovel, and just help us, with several other communities or community partners at this event, plant those trees. So if this interests you, please send us an email, let us know, and we would love to have you. All right, so a few calls to action before we go to our information part of the session. If you haven't already, please check us out on social media. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have YouTube. We also now have LinkedIn. So whichever social media networks that you use, please check us out. A lot of times Facebook is the best source for information, but we do recognize not everyone uses it. And we also have our more professional profile, which doesn't quite share quite as much, but we want to connect more with the professional community and whatnot. And also, if you're a volunteer in some form, feel free, add that volunteer experience on your LinkedIn profile, and you have the ability to connect with us, because there's a lot of organizations that do look for those types of efforts. As we mentioned, if you're interested in volunteering, send us an email. And if you are not a member but interested in joining us, you can sign up through the QR code, or if you're interested in having more of a conversation, don't hesitate to reach out. Janice, did I miss anything before we move over to Ray?
Looks good to me, Jessica.
All right. So I'm gonna stop sharing. Ray, you ready for the switch over?
Sure. Let me see if I can.
Oh, I'm gonna switch the host over to you, Ray.
All right.
You now should have access.
Okay, I'm not sure what you can see. All right, this thing
I
is.
see a giant moth, Ray. Looks really cool.
Oh yeah, that was a visitor at my back door here a couple weeks ago.
Nice shot.
Yeah, that was big. That's like 3 inches across.
Jeez.
All right, so let me get this. All right, are you seeing a PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is fall garden care, how to maximize your habitat in the dormant season. So I guess some of this is a frame of mind sort of thing. When things die back in the fall, we stop thinking about our yards as habitat. Perhaps, maybe you do, maybe you don't. And there's so much talk about how monarch butterflies migrate. Some people might have the impression that other insects, other pollinators also leave the scene, and that's just not the case. The monarchs are a rare exception of a migrating insect. So most of the stuff that's been busy, active in your yard, on your native pollinator plants, are still there in one form or another. And there's lots of different kinds of life cycles. Some insects overwinter as adults, some overwinter as larvae, and some overwinter as eggs. So it's really quite variable, but they're there. They're still around, and it's good to keep in mind that your landscape management is still important and beneficial to native bees especially, and other pollinating insects all year round. So there's some things we can do to help be sure that we're continuing to provide safe haven for these insects. We often think of honeybees as a stand-in for native bees. And again, just like monarchs, honeybees are really quite the exception to the rule. We know that honeybees overwinter as adults and they're in big hives. Most of our bees are nothing like that. They're solitary, and most of them are overwintering in the ground. They're ground nesting, and that's how they overwinter. So we have to think of how to benefit something that is just going dormant, and hunkering down for those few months when they can't forage. So let's take a look here. All right, so we'll look at some things about seeds and leaves and stems in our yards, whether you've got a big pollinator garden or just a little bit. There are ways of managing these things, and we can think of these separately. So we will look at these different topics. So seeds. This is the time to be collecting seeds. I've already started. I've gone to blue flag iris to catch some of the seeds that it has produced. It's one of the easier ones to collect and clean. But now is the time to be doing it. In fact, probably last week and the week before that was a time to get started as well. With blue flag iris, I go out with a container, a bowl or something like that, and get underneath the seed pod and clip it directly into it, because as soon as you touch some of these seed pods, they shed the seeds that are in there. So you want to be careful how you do that. There's other things like royal catchfly that are the seed pod is like an upright vase. As soon as you cut that, if you turn it over, seeds spill out. So you have to be careful when you gather these things that you're not losing everything that you're going after in that very moment of collecting. So that sort of thing is going on right now around here. And those of you who come on Saturday, you can see some of what we've managed to accomplish so far in seed collecting just right here around the house. I'm tabling and I'm giving out seeds to people all of the time, and they always want to know, well, what do? I take these seeds and just throw them on the ground? Well, it can be a little more complicated than that. And one of the methods that I'm really fond of is the milk jug greenhouse method for winter sowing. And that may take a little more in-depth explanation than we have tonight. That sowing seeds could be a big topic in and of itself, but the short version of that is that you make take a milk jug, cut it in half, drill some holes, put some potting soil in it, sow your seeds in that, duct tape the top back on, and leave it outside. Most of our native plants need winter conditions to stimulate germination in the spring. So if you save seeds and you just bring them into the comfort of your home, they may not know that spring arrives and that it's time to activate. So the winter conditions, the freeze, thaw, cold, wet, environment can be very helpful for your seeds. If you do so directly, you just want to make sure that you've got good seed soil contact. If you throw it down and the seeds end up on leaves, or if there's a layer of duff or mulch and the seeds are not in contact with soil, you'll get very poor results. If you are storing, it's probably a good idea to be in a cool, dark place. But you want to make sure that your seeds are able to dry out. So I've gotten into the habit of saving any paper bags that I get when I'm shopping because a paper bag can breathe. So if you put your seeds in a paper bag, as moisture is released from the seed and they dry out as they go dormant, then that can be released through the paper bag. If you're storing in a sealed container or a plastic bag, that won't happen. You're more likely to get mold. So those are a few tips right there. One of the things I've been really challenged in collecting with is purple coneflowers. As you see here, if you're familiar with purple coneflowers, that spiky center disc on them becomes even more spiky when the seeds form. And they're really tough to handle because they're going to be poking at you. And they're also attached very strongly to the disc plate under there. And it can take quite a bit of effort to get those seeds separated from there. I found that collecting them, letting the whole seed head dry for a couple of months, then go after it and try to peel off those seeds. It's a little less work to do it that way. So each seed is unique. Each technique that the plant has for propagating itself is unique, and so there's a lot to get familiar with when you are collecting, saving, and planting seeds. And the people who are doing the growing know far more about this than I do. But it is a really interesting way to get better acquainted with the plants that you're growing, is to have that experience of harvesting the seed, and then by spring in your milk jug greenhouse, now you've got dozens where you may have only had one or two before. So it is a very, I find it a very rewarding experience. All right, leaves and lawn care. You hear a lot about leave the leaves. At least I do. And my interpretation of that has evolved with time. My general practice is with my lawn is that I use a mulching mower and I just go over the lawn and let the leaves stay where they are. Unlike my neighbors, I don't rake leaves to the curb. So if you think about the nutrient cycle in a forest, you've got trees that take up nutrients from the soil and incorporate that into their own plant material, into their stems and trunks and leaves. And then, at the end of the season, those leaves drop and decompose into the soil and replenish those nutrients that were taken up by the roots the previous year. So it's a natural recycling effort. If you are removing leaves from the landscape, you're breaking that cycle. and then the soil becomes depleted. Same thing with cutting the grass. If you remove the clippings because you think that looks better, you're really harvesting that plant material and taking it out of the cycle. So anything you can leave on the ground to replenish the nutrients that are being removed by the grass plants and the trees will be helpful. And you don't have to put artificial fertilizers or mineral fertilizers on if the nutrients that are being taken up by roots go back into the soil and are made available to the roots if you keep that cycle complete. So that's part of the idea of leave the leaves, is just the nutrient cycling, but it's also habitat. And as you see in this picture here, there's a bumblebee. It really helps bumblebees if they can first get to the soil that is underneath these leaves, and then that's an extra blanket of protection for the bees, because they're going to overwinter in solitary tunnels just a couple inches under the surface, and having this cover helps. So here's a couple of facts I picked up from the Xerxes Society. Bumblebees, queens, burrow an inch or two in the earth to hibernate for winter. An extra thick layer of leaves is welcome protection from the elements. Tunnel nesting solitary bees, such as leafcutter and mason bees, need narrow tunnels or other tiny spaces in dead wood, hollow stems, or brush piles. So what to us may seem untidy by having brush pile or stems or a fallen log somewhere is actually habitat. If you've got the space, if you've got the means to preserve that, it'll be beneficial to wildlife. Red-banded hair-streaked butterflies lay their eggs on fallen oak leaves, which become the first food of the caterpillars when they emerge. So on the leaves themselves can be overwintering eggs or caterpillars that are using that leaf litter. Luna moth caterpillars spin their cocoons in leaves, which fall as trees shed their foliage and lie hidden on the ground. So this wonderful big Luna moth that everyone is delighted to see disguises itself as a fallen leaf over the winter. Woolly bear caterpillars tuck themselves into leaf piles for protection from cold weather. And I've been seeing woolly bears frequently this last week or so. They're crossing the road right in front of me. So there's lots of different ways to participate in Leave the Leaves. If you just don't rake and let leaves fall on the lawn, it may be detrimental to the lawn, if that's your concern, because if you block the light, if you smother the lawn, then it can be weak, because lawns don't exist in forests. So a layer of tree leaves is not compatible with that. But you can take leaves and you can rake them into garden beds. You can, if you've got space, and you can put them off to the side and let them decompose. The leaves will make some of the best mulch that you can get. That's what native plants expect the soil to be enriched with, is fallen leaves. So it is the most suitable soil amendment that you can use. So leaf mold or leaf mulch is good, and it's beneficial. And I wish more towns or whoever collects leaves with those big vacuum trucks in the fall, I wish they would leave them somewhere that people have access to, and can recycle them, use them on their own properties. It's the best thing you can do for your native plants. If you can get aged leaves and mulch with those, you'll be doing pretty good. So keep in mind what habitat that you have, and that leaves are a part of that, and you can use that to improve your year-round habitat and keep more diversity of insects and pollinators um, that make use of those leaves over the winter. Stems. I'm not too worried about it, but I am concerned, and I'm aware that not all of my neighbors appreciate the wild look of my yard. So I do some things to provide some curb appeal. So I'm not just managing for wildlife, I'm managing for the humans in my environment as well. So I try to make things look neat, and I can show you a couple of those techniques if you show up here on Saturday. But having it look like you've paid attention goes a long ways for skeptical neighbors who don't really understand what you're doing. So one of the things that I like to do is trim back stems, because things tend to flop and go to seed and look pretty chaotic as winter approaches. So one of the things I like to do is to take maybe a third to a half of the stems later in the fall and trim those off. And then everything looks more orderly. It looks like I've paid attention. It looks deliberate. Looks, I meant to do this. And that's important. But when you do that, you can be removing some of the overwintering adults or eggs or larvae that are in pithy stems. So there's a lot of bees like this green sweat bee here that depend on stems and holes for overwintering and for completing their life cycle. And so I have found a place behind the shed where I can pile the stems that I collect. So there they are. They overwinter. They're undisturbed, and then in the spring, if there are eggs in there and the larvae hatch out or the adults emerge in the spring, they're fine. They've successfully overwintered because I didn't remove them from the property, and so the adult pollinators will be right back because I didn't do anything to remove them to the landfill or somewhere else. So the abundance and diversity of insects will be improved if you can keep those stems. And a brush pile can be winter habitat for many other things besides what is in the stem itself. Okay. And so here's stems. I think I got ahead of my slide. So basically the bottom line was cut a third to a half of the stem, bundle over winter, set them aside, or even in the same pollinator garden, just kind of tuck it in amongst the stems, it'll look cared for, and you still have the habitat. Okay. So I think that's the main thing for right now. And this picture I took last fall over at Edison Woods in Erie County. The bright red is the Virginia creeper that was really showing off, that had climbed up the trunks. Okay, I'm going to stop the share.
Thank you, Ray.
Okay.
That was great, Ray. Thank you.
Oh,
So does anybody have any questions for Ray?
I have a question.
sure, Diane.
Okay, it has to do with leaves. So I don't have a lot of leaves, because all my trees are new. I basically had one tree on my property when I moved in. So I don't have a lot of leaves. And the ones I do get, I have all this wind that comes in over the farm and takes them all down the street. So I don't even have to like rake them or anything. But is like for the ones that I do get, they get so dry. I mean, can you just like wet them down with a hose to try to get some leaf mulch,
boy.
or eventual leaf
Yeah.
mulch, or like how can I save the few leaves I do have?
Yeah, usually, leaves, dance around in the wind. Fall gets windy and the leaves are down, and you get you get them, moving back and forth, and you don't always have your leaves here in my neighborhood. You don't rake your own leaves, you rake your neighbor's leaves
Right.
off of your lawn because they don't fall straight down. So
Right.
you get a little bit of something from everybody. I don't know if wetting would do it. I like using a mulching mower. It's just so easy. They just seem to disappear, and then all of those leaves that are in small pieces then stay,
Kind of stay. Yeah.
in the lawn.
Yeah.
The other thing would be to rake them into your pollinator garden, and then they'd
Right.
have a better chance of sticking
Which I
around.
do that. I just rake them in, and then some of them stay in there, They don't usually make it all the way through, but there's a few piles that stay. I'm going to steal some of my daughter's. She has a huge, I don't know, it's a 70-year-old oak tree in her front yard, and I said she leaves the leaves in as many places as she can, but she has too many. So I'm like going to try to figure out a way that I can put them in some containers and bring them down to my house.
Yeah, I think
you'll have to watch out for that, because I made the mistake one of my early years of owning my house, and I did leaf piles in certain areas, and to Ray's point, like it killed so much of my grass. So you gotta watch that. But one of the things I started experimenting with last year to help limit my mowing, but it might help a little bit with your leaf situation, so you don't have to do as much. I switched my one part of my yard, and this is a great time of year to do that. I cut up my turf grass because it's not native and it really doesn't have environmental benefits, and switched a section over to depending on the company it provides it, sometimes it's called no-mow grass, sometimes it's called eco-friendly grass, but it's all native grasses, and they only grow up until like roughly 6 inches high, maybe a little bit longer. So it's like still within that acceptable range, but if you really want to trim it, you could. And if so, you don't only have to do it a couple times a year. But the root system's a lot better, so it helps with the absorption of water, like especially with heavy rains and stuff. And I've noticed it's better at catching the leaves, but without like causing it to, because it's a little bit fluffier, I guess, than normal, what we're used to
Yeah.
turf grass wise. And especially if you leave it because you're doing the no mow thing or minimal mow, I should say, because it's not perfect because I have a dog that likes to tear up part of my yard too. So, but I found it to be a little bit helpful. But I know Ray was about to say something too.
Yeah, for the first couple of years that I lived in this house and was starting a garden, a vegetable garden from a patch of turf, I really needed organic matter. I brought all the leaves I could and put them on the garden, and most of them stayed right there where I put them. But then those broke down. The oak leaves are slower to break down than maple trees and others. But they still, in the spring, preparing the garden, I would till all those in, and it helped to enrich the soil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Does anybody feel like they have to have a really nice looking lawn? I know there's different feelings on that. Some people say, no, I don't care what it looks like. Other people say, it's a weakness. It's just something I have to have. I need to have a nice, clean, neat lawn. I don't like the weeds in the lawn.
My husband is somebody who likes the manicured lawn.
Ditto.
So it's a battle.
Yeah.
I
So
don't know. It's give and take. Like I have a lot of beds that have the natives in them, and then we have the lawn. It would be nice, Jessica. Like I would love to convert part of our lawn.
You should
like,
experiment, because then he might appreciate the fact that he doesn't have to maintain it as much. But it's
oh,
still
he loves mowing the grass.
Yeah. Janice, wait, do we have the same husband, Janice?
We might,
Because,
Diane.
like you are saying everything I say.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah,
So,
we have, like I have my parts and he has his parts, and we have agreements. Like he likes to trim the boxwoods.
Do we
into
need an
a
AA
square,
thing
so.
for Mowers Anonymous or
lawns.
something?
so one of the things,
Compromise.
if you're inclined to fertilize and use a broadleaf weed killer kind of thing, I would suggest minimize that. And the biggest bang for your buck is maybe every other year, you do a fall weed and feed. That is the only thing that you need to do, and you'll have a greener lawn, and you'll have fewer broadleaf weeds. And if you're worried about fertilizer runoff, that is the time when it's least impactful. If something, the algae blooms happen from spring runoff, not from fall occurrences. So and weeds are easily managed. Lawn weeds are easily managed in the fall, like right now would be the time to do that. The other thing in lawn care that is really easy to do is to set your mower height up, if not to the maximum, then almost to the maximum, because the taller the turf is, the deeper the roots are. So if you've got tall, and most people won't notice how tall the grass is. You can cut it just as often as you would anyhow and keep it uniform, but a uniform 5 inches looks the same as a uniform 3 inches. And you've got healthier and taller grass is going to compete better against dandelions if that's what your goal is.
yeah, we have, from when we moved in, and we've been in our house for 8 years, the previous owner had planted a juga in the bed somewhere, and it's all in our backyard. For those who don't know, it's like a ground cover, usually has small purple leaves, really low, gets these purple flowers. They still sell it in the nurseries. I don't know why. It just takes over. And I feel like we've been trying to get it out of the lawn for, however long, and I just go through and I pick it by hand whenever I'm out there. That's the only weed. I'm like, I don't want this. You're not even, it's not native. And
Yeah, at
Right.
least we don't use the weed killer. I mean, he does fertilize, but he knows better now not to use any kind of weed killer because we have too many beds. Like, he's like, that's enough with the beds. Like, no more beds. We're good. I'm like, oh, but maybe just no more grass.
Diane, we should get together.
We should maybe for some.
Diane, more trees then.
Yes.
It's
Well,
not more beds,
we have
more
added a
trees
lot of
then.
trees. We have added a lot of trees. I'll give you that.
Okay.
Yes. So we're good on
I
that.
keep trying.
They're just small. They're just not big enough yet.
Uh-huh. We'll get creative.
Yes.
Yeah, I wish, I keep imagining these big lawns and riding mowers that have two big collectors on the back. Each one holds a 55-gallon bag. And so, every week it's out there and it fills up these bags. And it's often a combination of leaves and grass clippings, which is perfect compost. Boy,
Exactly.
if there's any way, you can intervene with somebody and say, hey, dump those over here when you're done with it. I
Yeah.
think that I see it as a resource, not as a
we
waste
do
product.
use our grass, in our gardens as much as possible. But a lot of times I can't tell if some of that, then the biggest thing I weed is grass in my flower beds. So I'm not sure if it's coming from where there was grass there before, because we made that flower bed, or if it's coming from what's been mowed. I don't know, but so
most lawn grasses do not go to seed.
Yeah, I don't think so really either. I think it's coming from from underneath where we planted, where we took grass out. But
Yeah, it's probably the rhizomes
you
coming
think?
through.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you guys all so much for your time. Great conversations. But I want to be curious of everyone's time. But thank you guys so much for joining today. Please take, if you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Or if you're interested in volunteering, we'd love to hear from you. For those that are not members, I hope you do consider joining us. But if you'd love to talk further, please let me know. We'd be happy to chat. But also, two things I just want to follow up on because I forgot about the one I just found out about today. But today's lights out. So, because we're at peak or close to peak migration, please consider turning off your outside lights today at least. Possibly for a longer period of time, or minimize that as much as possible to not affect the migrations. But in addition, I forgot to do this as a call out to action. If you are a member, please consider joining that new Facebook group so you can share your stories, ask your questions, maybe coordinate get-togethers. Janice, Ray, anything I miss?
Sounds good.
Wonderful. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. And we hope to see you this Saturday in Amherst for that Can You Dig It event. Okay. All right. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.